in a dialectical relationship between changing culture or changing hearts and changing policy. And that if we don't do one, the other one doesn't happen, right? I also was really disappointed that she used what I thought was a fantastic opportunity to sit and really build with young Black activists who had come specifically to share their concerns with her, that she used that opportunity to almost shun them as opposed to
shun or lecture?
Both, to be honest, because there were some pointed questions that were being put forward to her. And one of those pointed questions was about
didn't you want her to share her view and her view of things too?
Well, let me be clear. One of the pointed questions that she was asked was about her changing stance on mass incarceration.
Right.
Now, I grew up in the era of mass incarceration when Black people in particular were being demonized and seen as a drain on government resources. And, former Secretary Clinton and her husband, former President Clinton, really moved this very robust agenda around criminalizing Black people. And they did that in a couple of different ways. One was by passing and championing this landmark 3 strikes legislation, which actually incarcerated more Black people than any other time in history, right? And they also did something that was overwhelming, which was to dismantle state supports for families to be able to thrive, or just at the very least survive, right? And they did that under this notion, right, that people were taking advantage of the system and that people are not redeemable. And now what we see on the campaign trail is that there's suddenly this new stance that says mass incarceration is a horrible thing, right? And the question that those activists posed to her of what changed your mind is not an out there question. It's really not. In fact, I thought it was brilliant.
And you thought she got defensive.
Well, she did get defensive, and she got dismissive, and she also didn't answer the question. And
you going to vote for her?
Well, no, I'm not. And mostly, have been impacted by that experience very much. I do believe that, dialogue is necessary.
We get to November. The likelihood is it's going to be Hillary Clinton against, I don't know, Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio or Donald Trump. You're going to stay home? You're going to pull the lever for the Republican?
No. I definitely plan to vote. I'm not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. That's what my stance is, and I'm not voting for any Republicans.
So in other words, a third party. Can I remind you, Ralph Nader was also a third party candidate.
I remember. I do think it's troubling that we do something in this country where we go, if you don't vote for the appointed ones, everything's going to go to hell. That's not actually true. What is true, certainly, is that there are multiple things that are important for us to make decisions about, and president is one. And the reason for that being Supreme Court appointees, yeah? But I also want to be really clear that for Black people in this country to demand allegiance to a candidate that has deliberately lessened their quality of life, I think is irresponsible.
When you see the percentage of African Americans who have in fact said that they'll vote for Hillary Clinton, does it make you despair in some way? Because it's very, very high, as you know.
No, it doesn't make me despair in any way. I think what we know about Black voters is that we tend to vote Democratic.
Yeah.
And we tend to do that across the board.
In a sense, you feel that you give away the vote too cheap.
I absolutely feel that way.
Let's go to another politician. He happens to be the President of the United States. Barack Obama, do you get a sense from him that he's behind you and Black Lives Matter?
I get a sense, I don't know the man, so I can't definitely say that. But I get a sense that there's many things that we share in common. But I think that Obama's Achilles heel is that there's a way in which he cares so much also about the culpability and responsibility of Black people to act right, that in some ways it tends to water down some of the impact that he can have.
In other words, what you object to is the cultural critique, the hitch up your pants
Yeah,
that part of his.
Yeah, and let me give some examples. I mean, I think after Trayvon Martin was killed, yes, he does what is considered an epic speech because he had not addressed race in his entire presidency up until that point. So it's considered epic, but really what he said was very basic, which was, that could have been my son, right? At the same time, he then calls for peace, and he says, people need to, get it all the way together, basically. Which is a troubling message in a situation where...
It's troubling for the president to call for peace on the street?
In a situation where it takes 2 months for George Zimmerman to even be charged, yes.
So you would have him implicitly support unrest on the street?
I would have him implicitly support the demands of the family that the man who killed their child be held accountable. And he did not do that. He did not do that soon enough, and he did not do that even as he was saying, yeah, something's very wrong.
But you know what he says in those instances? He says, look, we have to let the justice system do its work.
Of course. We're all making choices here about how we lead. And, I'm not saying this to disparage him, but I am going to be very, very frank when I say, as the leader of this nation, it is your responsibility to say it is not okay for it to take 2 months to charge a man who has killed a 17-year-old child for no reason. It is not okay. And the thing that should be coming out of your mouth is not, there needs to be peace. It should be, there needs to be justice in this situation.
No.
And I'm calling on the police department in Sanford, Florida, to press charges. That would have been the speech of his life.
That was Alicia Garza, who was one of the founders of Black Lives Matter. There's more to come on the New Yorker Radio Hour. Stay tuned.
The New Yorker Radio Hour is supported by Squarespace, providing tools to create a professional website. Learn more at squarespace.com/radiohour. Squarespace, build it beautiful. And by Audible.com, a provider of downloadable audiobooks and spoken word content with a wide range of titles, including new releases. Learn more at audible.com/radiohour.
4-8-19-27-34. If you guessed any of those numbers for how often Paul Ryan smiled during the State of the Union, you're way over. On Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me this week, we explore how the president and Congress, unlike Nikki Haley's top and lower teeth, are really far apart. Plus, actress Sutton Foster tells us what it's like to play a 40-year-old woman pretending to be 26. I'm Mike Pesca, pretending to be Peter Sagal on this week's news quiz from NPR.
Today at 11 on WNYC.
WNYC receives support from the Irish Repertory Theatre, presenting Seamus Heaney's The Burial Thieves. In this modern translation of Antigone, the right to personal dignity conflicts with the demands of state security. Now through March 6th, irishrep.org. Penguin Random House, publisher of Leaving Before the Rains Come by Alexandra Fuller. Looking to rebuild after a painful divorce, the author turns to her African past for clues to living a life fully and without fear.
The economy has not recovered like it has in the rest of the country. New York and the country as a whole has gotten back all of the jobs it lost in the recession, but New Jersey has not.
It's not just the news, it's your next conversation. Hear it on Morning Edition and be ready to make the most of your day. Listen every morning on WNYC.
David Remnick. Welcome back to the New Yorker Radio Hour. And now, ladies and gentlemen, once again, Jack Handey.
Tales of Old Santa Fe by Jack Handey. The Tale of Allie McGraw. Seems there was a rumor going around that Allie McGraw was going to move out of Santa Fe. A contingent from the mayor's office showed up at her door. "Allie, we heard you might be moving out of town," said the mayor. "Please don't do it. Before you came here, Santa Fe wasn't fit for women or children." "Don't worry, Mayor. I ain't a-going nowheres, said Allie. But tell me, who started this dang fool rumor? Alan Arkin, said the mayor. The next time Allie saw Arkin, she threw a shot of whiskey in his face. Arkin drew the derringer he always carries, but Allie slapped it out of his hand. To this day, when folks see Allie on the street, they make the motion of someone throwing whiskey in someone else's face.
Jack Handey is the author of What I'd Say to the Martians and other books. You can hear some other stories he's recorded at NewYorkerRadio.org. Nathan Englander is a writer mainly of short stories. They're fast, they're funny, quirky, not unlike Nathan himself. He's been published in The New Yorker since 1999. Now Englander is working on a novel, and he says he's at it pretty much every waking minute, 6-7 days a week, except when he's at the gym, doing CrossFit with his trainer, Noah Abbott.
You want to warm up, just row, like easy row for a couple minutes, and then we'll do a little Tabata interval piece after we're done with that.
Tabata, we're not doing the anthropology day at CrossFit, but a Tabata is 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. Really what I want to talk about is how it feeds into the rest of my life and into my writing and all that stuff. CrossFit metaphysics. What do you call it, like the genetic you've explained, will you talk about genetic, this is a eugenics course here.
Yeah, it's true.
But what do you call it, the genetic maximum?
Like genetic ceiling.
Yes,
right?
would you talk about that?
Well, it's an idea, it's a way of kind of getting people to understand that they're kind of training them, for themselves, rather than, for the guy next to them, and the guy next to them, and the guy next to them.
Well, I think that's what interests me. Like, the whole part of writing in our writing lives is this weird, it's like a lottery life if you dedicate yourself to fiction. You just don't know your potential. Like, that's why everybody loves those stories of, like, J.K. Rowling rejected 9,000 times.
Right.
Like, now she just bought whales. Like these, you don't know your limit. And in here, it's really, what I kind of like about it is that it's so competitive, but against yourself. And yeah, that's a comfort for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So 4 rounds, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off.
Oh.
You go double unders, box jumps.
So double, I'm going back and
You
forth?
go back and forth. You alternate
Awesome.
between the two.
Okay.
It took me almost, I think, a year after you walked in the door to kind of realize who you were. It's like, I read him in college.
That's funny.
Right. New voices in Jewish fiction.
Yeah, I knew.
Right?
I knew what course it was.
And you're like, yeah, that's
my wheelhouse,
spot right
my
there.
sweet
there
spot.
We go.
Yeah.
What brought you here? Like, where did you?
Everything's about writing or Judaism with me, as you know, and where the twain meet. Anyway, but almost weirdly, I would like trace it to book tour. I'm 45 years old, which traditionally, historically, for a writer, I would be dead now, like 1 out of 3 dead or, drinking my way there. But yeah, so I feel like it was like after last book tour or something, which if all goes well with the book, they send you around and you travel, and I'm polite. So in Stockholm, you want me to have dessert? I have dessert. You want me to have another drink in Mississippi? I have a drink. Point is, I get off that airplane after it's done, and I feel like basically like a 200-pound bag of salt. You easily like fall out of routine, which is, I think, why writers are so neurotic about being interrupted, because you think like one day off, I'll just be like in bed drinking grape knee-high and watching The View for the rest of my life. But the point is, I was looking to like get back to routine, and a friend, he's like, you gotta go, you gotta try it.
Here you go, nice and soft. Okay.
It's really pretty imposing to show up here. I enjoy the sound of the clang now, but there's just a lot of clanging and banging and big men and women like lifting a lot of weight and doing a lot of stuff that until you put in the months and the time is extraordinarily hard.
All right, relax.
I'm now gonna take a deep breath and not pass out.
All right, last time.
And I have to say also, you're always nice, but everybody gets really nice after you show you're dedicated. I don't mind that in life. As a suburban, lazy suburban child who was raised by a TV set and did not go outside, like, it took so many years, like decades literally, to train myself to sit and to push and to write, like...
Try one more round of double unders. I made the rope a little shorter.
Oh, awesome. Oh, nice. That felt different. Here we go. I am finishing a book now, and I am so, I believe the medical term is mentally ill. I am unstable.